Hello and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. I'm going to start off this morning by showing you two new instruments, or they're not really new, but instruments that you probably will never see unless you see them because I brought them in. And this is the first one I want you to see. And there's a story behind it. It is like a little fife. It plays like a fife. It has its little round tone hole where your mouth goes, and then it has the tone holes, no tone hole in the back. The unusual part of this is it is made out of water pipe, PVC pipe. And the story as to how I got it is that a friend of mine wanted me to meet a man who was interested in instruments, all kinds of instruments, and he had asked for the right to see me and see some of my unusual instruments because I have so many. I have probably about 250 instruments now in my collection. So at that time I didn't have quite as many, but I really had a lot. So I was going to see him. I didn't have any problem seeing him, so I arranged a private showing, and he came in, and we had a good time. We had lunch together and all of that. And what he did was he gave me this gift. He says, for everybody that allows me to see their instruments and become a part of their musical life, because I love music, I make them a handmade flute. And I make it out of PCV pipe. So that's what it is. It's water pipe, and it does play. It's just a plain thing. And when he talked to me about it, he said, take it to the beach, sit on it if you want to. It can fill with sand. It won't bother. You can't destroy it. All you have to do is just wash it. If you get sand in it, if it's caked up with mud, wherever it is, just rinse it off. Once you rinse it off, it's good to go. And it does play some. It's very hard to play. But the amazing thing about an instrument that's handmade like this, these holes are perfect. And in order to get it to play right, those holes have to be exactly the right distance from each other, because if they're not, you're not going to get a smooth tone. You're not going to be able to play a scale with it. So he has all of these holes. They look almost exactly one right below the other, which are recorded. There's a little variation to accommodate your hands, but he has them all right down the line in the right position, so if you're doing well enough, you can play a scale on it. And I have played it some. I wouldn't do a solo with it, and it's not like so predictable that I can be sure that I'm going to be able to play on it. But yes, it does work, and it's closed on one side. You won't be able to see this, but all instruments, all woodwind instruments, and I think brass as well, have to be closed on one end. There is a little piece of cork stuck down there so the air can only go in one direction. And so there it is, simple, water pipe fife. And so therefore, I'm glad to have it. It is unusual. Most people don't have it. And then I want to show you another one. This is very, very ornate and very, very beautiful, and I really am going to want to have some close-up shots of it. It was made in India. It is a fife, or actually a recorder-like instrument. It has a fipple mouthpiece like the recorders have, and in the back it even has a little block like recorders have. But this is what I really want you to notice. It is all hand carved to look like flowers and leaves. I believe it was hand carved. I know it was made in India, and I know they do a lot of hand carvings. So if you look at the tone holes, I don't know if you can catch this or not, but each of the tone holes, they're about the same size, and they just go straight up and down. They're surrounded by like a flower, like the petals of a flower around each hole. And see if that's good. And every tone hole is like that. There's no tone hole in the back. And so you have your 6 tone holes, the same size, and they have like little petals around each one. And then if I'm going to hold it to the side, there are all kinds of leaves and flowers carved in this. And if you can take a really close view, I hope you can see some of that, because it's very ornate. It's very beautiful. let me hold it around here. It'll have a row of flowers with leaves surrounding the flowers, and then it'll have a little line, a little squiggly line. It's just a design feature, followed by another row of flowers and leaves. And that's the way it is. Let me turn around in the back. There's nothing in the back. There's no tone hole in the back. And there it is. The whole thing. Now it does play some, even on the bottom. On the bottom of it, you get this little uneven line, and it's flattened. I believe this is all hand done. Very, very unusual instrument. It's handmade, and it is from India. I know that for sure, that it was made in India. It does play. It gives a fairly good tone, and it's a little hard to play because all of the holes are stretched out enough that it's very hard to get your fingers on each hole to keep it closed. You know, for recorders, you have to have your fingers on each tone hole that you're using, and it has to be in such a way that it closes the hole completely. And these holes are just stretched out far enough that you have to have fairly wide, fairly large hands in order to be able to do that. And my hands are a little bit too small for that, but it fingers like any other recorder, except you've got to really stretch your hands. You have to stretch your hands as much as you would on an alto recorder. And there's no place specifically to put your thumbs in the back, but you don't need to. You just, the thumbs in the back are just there to help, you know, balance the instrument. You wouldn't be able to play it otherwise. So that's an Indian, a real Indian recorder, handmade, and it's very, very lovely. I don't know the kind of wood that it used, but it has the Fipple mouthpiece. It has everything it needs to be a recorder. And I have used it some, but I wouldn't wouldn't do a solo with it because of the hand stretches. If you look at a regular recorder, and I'll use one of mine here, you'll notice that the holes are not completely the same size, and they're not exactly in line. I mean, there's a little variation. Some of them are a little bit to the right, some of them are a little bit to the left, but the reason is to accommodate your fingers so you don't have to stretch your fingers out, and you can cover the holes. And the bottom part, of course, the foot joint, is adjustable, so I can move it in different directions to get these two little holes, the last two little holes, in a place that really accommodates the little finger. So I'll have to move this a little bit. But on those other instruments that I'm showing you, they're all the same size, just straight up and down, and there's no variation at all. So at any rate, those are the two instruments I want to show you this morning that are different. And what I want to go into now is I've been talking to you about fingering charts. Let's see, here we go. I've been talking to you about fingering charts. This is one that I made out, and I did it by taking a picture of the recorder, you know, kind of a sketch of the recorder with the mouthpiece and the bell, and I've put the note the way that it's fingered, where it appears on the staff. This is just a regular fingering chart that I've made out myself, but there are a lot of others that are just very good. And also, I showed you this before, I just want to review it. I have a whole fingering chart that's several pages long based on this drawing. You have your keyboard on top, you have your low C or middle C, low C because it's the lowest note that the recorder can get, and I go up at it an octave, and then I bring it down an octave. I space those notes closer, and I will have a diagram of exactly where the fingering is. So this is a chart that I'm using for it. So I want to start with the fingering of all the notes that we will normally use, that I'm trying to teach you. The B, A, G, F, E, D, and from here to here, because that's basically the scale going down. And the reason for teaching you the higher note first and then going down rather than up is that it's much easier to balance the instrument. It's much easier to make sure that your fingers are in the right place and you're not squealing. So we'll start with that B, but first let me show you. This is what I've been doing. B, A, G, F, E, D. That's practically the whole scale. Then all you'd have to do would be to add the low C, and this C here, you would have the whole scale, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, and C. But most people are going to teach you, as I will teach you, starting with the B, because that B means that you can balance the instrument by holding your thumb in the back, your index finger in the front, with your left hand on top, and with your right hand curved toward the bottom of the instrument, not necessarily on the notes, not necessarily on the tone holes, but there they are. So if you have to, there they are. So anyway, let's go from that B down to that D, and I'm going to show you how I would picture it on a fingering chart. Here's the B. Here is this is where it appears on the keyboard. And this is where it is on the staff, if you're looking at a five-layered staff, and the B is right, D, A, G, F, E, D. This is the B right here, the first one of that series. So that's the B, which is the same as this. And if you were to look at it going down the other direction, this is the same as this. It's the same note. Here it is on the keyboard. And this is how it's fingered. You have one finger on top, and you have this on the staff. This is on top. That's the only key that you put down. And of course, I colored in the note as it is on the keyboard so you can see where it is. So if I can take my instrument here, here is the, put this down, here is the B right here. The simplest note to play. That's that B. I'm only showing you one note in each page. Then the next note down is going to be an A. Here the A is on the keyboard, and here it is on the staff. And of course, if you want to look at the staff, the full staff, here it is right here, and it's right here if you're going down the other way. And what you do is you put your second finger down, so you have two fingers, not one. This is the B, this is the A, and in both of those notes, the thumb hole in the back is covered. I don't have that in, but I'm just telling you that. And oh yes, I do have that in, because this is the back of the instrument like I drew it. I turned it around, and that's the thumb hole in the back, and it is covered. So that's the A. Then you go to the G. Well, the G is just one more note down. You have three of the holes covered. Here it is on the staff. Here it is on the keyboard. The tone hole is covered in the back. That would be the thumb hole, so you're not playing an octave. And then the G would be right here if you want to see it on the full staff. So there it is. So B, A, G, and I'll play all three. You can make a whole song out of just these three notes, and I've done it for students, because usually you cover one note or two notes per lesson, because if you're teaching somebody that's young, you have to keep it in the range of what they can remember and what they can do. But that's the left hand on top, B, A, G. G here on the keyboard, and G here on the regular staff, and the thumb hole is closed for that G. You would only open it if you're doing an octave. So that's B, A, G, and that covers everything on the left hand. Then you're going to go to the F. So you're going to start using the right hand right here. The right hand is going to go on this note right here. So if I show this to you with the instrument, here's your B, your A, your G, your F is right here on the right hand. Now your thumb is still closing that tone hole, but now you get your F. The only addition I would make is that if you have a Baroque instrument, you put this finger down as well. So you have one finger up, there's your F key, add that other finger, and you'll have the full, for the Baroque, that would be the fingering for the F. You wouldn't use your middle finger. And I have that down here, so if you're looking at the chart, B, A, G, F. Now, if you do have a Baroque instrument, you would also close that. You'd leave this open and close that. So I did another little fingering chart here, B, A, G, F, with that added for the Baroque fingering. If there's no Baroque instrument and it's a German fingering instrument, it's just these three with your left hand and your right hand on that one. The F on the keyboard is right here. And the F on the staff is right here, which of course is the same as this, which is the same as that. You're just going up the scale and back down again. So if you're looking at the staff and you have a series of notes there, this is going to be the F. I've just isolated it. Tone hole closed. It's easier to understand if you can see it like this. And there are some fingering, some books that actually show their fingering charts like this. Now you're going to the E. That's the next one down. So if I'm to play it for you, B, A, G, F, E, or B, A, G, F. And then the E, if it's a Baroque, you'd lift this up and put this down. This is the E. And if you're looking at this chart, the thumb hole is still closed, and you have your next finger down, and you have your E right here on the staff. It's right here on the staff and right here. And on the keyboard, it's colored in right here. The easy way to remember if you're doing anything with the keyboard, and I think I like to have students know this. I'm not trying to make them into piano players, but you have a set of 3 black keys, then 2 black keys, then 3 black keys, then 2 black keys, and it goes all the way up and down the keyboard. Those black keys are all your flats and sharps, excuse me, and all of the regular keys are just for the natural notes. So if you have 2, doesn't matter where the 2 are, the one that's to the left of that second in that row of 2 is always going to be a C. If you go down 2 further, then you get the A. So if you're following your keys as far as the alphabet is concerned, here's an A right here. The C is right here, it's just 2 down. When you get 3 of the black notes, then the one to the left of the black notes that's to the furthest right of that series of 3, that's always going to be an A. So you can say, if you want to follow the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it goes back to an A again. So here is the E, and once again, on the keyboard, this is what you're covering, B, A, G with your left hand, and then F, E with your right hand. The tone hole is still closed. There it is on the staff. That's the easiest way to look at it if you want to go one note at a time. And if I'm teaching a youngster, that's the way I'm going to do it. Then you get to the D. That's this set of holes covered. Now, if you look at the recorder, I've got to watch my time here. B, A, G, F, E, and these last 2 are two little holes beside each other. One is the last one above the foot joint, and the other one is just below the beginning of the foot joint. When you play a D, these two are covered. B, A, G, F, E, D, right here. So both of those will be covered. If you don't cover both of them, you're going to get a flat or a sharp, and that's the reason why the second hole is there. Not all recorders have a second hole, but many of them do, especially the new ones. So if I didn't do that second hole, here I get a sharp. So this is the D, B, A, G left hand, F, E, and D right hand. Those two are covered by one finger, and that's going to be the fourth finger. Tone hole is still closed, and then you have your D on the staff. Here it is on the keyboard, and then here it is next to the last note, on the regular staff, so you can pick it up that way. And then that's basically what we're going to be working with. For the lowest note, that would be the C, and that you have on the last step of those two little notes on this instrument. That would be the low C. It has one ledger line. It is a low C. It is halfway between the treble and the bass clef. The tone hole is still closed. That's your low C. And there it is on the instrument, on the keyboard. It's the lowest that the instrument can get. So there it is, B, A, G on your left hand, F, E, D on the right hand, and C on the right hand, closing it off. And then you get practically all the octaves. There's only one more C that I'm going to show you, and that completes the scale. Let me turn this over so you can see it. Whoops, I've got it over too far. I don't know if I can get it or not. The page is not cooperating. Ah, here it is. Okay, that other C is the higher C, and it's this finger right here. And instead of starting with the B, as I showed you before, you start with the middle finger, second down, and that's going to be the C. Then when you go to the B, A, G, that's the top C. Now, the instrument can go an octave above that, but we're not dealing with that now. I just want you to learn the basic notes. The tone hole is still closed. This is the C. When you play the B, that would go up, and you would put that one down. This is where it is on the staff. This is where it is on the keyboard, and this is where it is on the staff if you're looking at it with a group of notes. So that it really completes a whole scale for you. And it's not that hard to learn it, especially the way that I teach it, if you can remember that, B, A, G, F, E, D. And if you were to look at the whole range that the recorder can play, it can play all of these notes. And I can see that we've run out of time, so I'm not going to go through this with you, but I have shown it to you before. C, C. D, D. I mean, it has all of the staff notes and where they appear on the keyboard for the 2-octave range that the recorder has. So I'm going to close it here, and we'll go on from here next time. And please join me then.